Hello everyone. So my name is Asad. I'm based at the Liverpool Hope Business School within the Liverpool Hope University, and I teach strategic management and leadership both at the undergrad and master's levels. And I'm presenting this paper today with my colleague Ilva. Ilva, do you
Hi
want to?
everyone, I'm Ilvana Bateman. I'm based with Assad within the business management team at Liverpool Hope University, and I teach mainly international business and globalization both at undergrad and postgrad levels. So we're going to try to do a double act here today. So we want to share our experience of using a game as a pedagogical tool, and it's an international trading game. Um, that is based on a game that was originally developed by Action Aid. And I first came across this game more than 20 years ago at a learning and teaching conference where someone explained their experience, shared their experience of using the game. And I thought it might be good for me, but they didn't do a demonstration. So as soon as I was back in Liverpool, I gathered my colleagues and told them we need to play this game, and soon realized that I could really use it as part of my international business class. And I actually have been using it almost every year since then, with undergrad students, but also with postgrad students. I've used it at open days when we go to schools. I've used it with college students. Recently, I've used it with a group of students with special educational needs, and it actually worked. And I've used it with our mature students in some of our satellite colleges. And that's part of the beauty of the game. That it's quite simple, but it's adaptable to different levels of education, different types of students. And the premise of the game itself is also very simple. Students are divided into groups. They don't necessarily have to be three groups, but you need at least three groups so that you can have a high income, a middle income, and a low income country. Each country is given a pack, a sealed pack with resources, and their task is to manufacture shapes to a specific dimensions that we give them. And then they need to sell those shapes to an international commodities trader for money. The shapes themselves are very simple. They're just rectangles, triangles, circles, and semicircles. There are very few rules to the game. Students are allowed to move around the room. They're allowed, in fact, they should trade with each other. And what I always tell them is that the key rule is that they can only use the materials that are provided in the packs. They cannot use their own pens or pencils or anything else. I always make them put everything to the side. At the end of the game, the country that has the most money is the winner. One of the things participants are not told is that the resources they get in those packs are not the same. And some students realize this very quickly. It takes a bit longer for others. So if you're a high income country, you'll have two scissors, you have two rulers, two pencils, a compass, 600 euros, only one piece of paper, a protractor, and a set square. They don't even know that that protractor and that set square are the exact same size of some of the shapes they need to make. And in fact, in more than 20 years, no one's ever realized that. If you're a middle income country, then you get loads of paper, you get two pencils, a ruler, and 300 euros. And if you are a low income country, your pack is very light. You only get two pencils, four pieces of paper, and 200 euros. Once the game starts, the dynamics can be very different. Every year, the dynamics are different. Some students get into it straight away. Others take a while to get into it. One of the things I do is I put templates of the shapes on the wall with the dimensions. And you can see at the back, there's a student tracing or trying to trace the shapes. What I don't tell students is that those templates are not done to scale. So some of them rush to trace the shapes and then realize that they're the wrong size. So when they want to sell them to the trader, they're not successful. One of the reasons I do this is because it forces them to start trading, particularly if you are the rich country and you use your one piece of paper, then it forces them to trade with others. There's always a little bit of confusion at the beginning, people realizing at different times that they have unequal resources, realizing that the shapes on the walls are not the right size. And that's when they start to interact. So for example, in this picture, some trading has already happened. The girls on the right were actually a high income country, but they didn't realize they were the only group that had two pairs of scissors. They didn't realize that no one else had scissors. And the group on the left very quickly realized that and convinced them to give them the scissors for almost nothing. So they lost their advantage straight away. If we look at the next picture, we see that groups have to make also decisions about how they organize themselves, how they are going to divide the labor. So the group on the left, you can see that there's only one person who's manufacturing, although we can see on the table that there are probably enough resources there for all the others to do something. Whereas the group on the right, it was only two students, and one of them is drawing and the other one is cutting. In fact, those two students ended up being a very small country because they arrived late. They arrived quite late to the session, so everybody was already in a group. And I said, okay, you're a small, newly formed country, but you're rich in technology. So they got a rich country pack. As the game progresses, participants start bringing their shapes to the trader, who inspects them. The trader can decide to pay full price. They can reject the shapes, or they can pay a discounted price if they feel that the quality of the shapes is not good enough. And then you can start adding different dimensions and different complexities to the game. So you can, for example, change the market conditions. I have a very loud whistle, and then I blow my whistle and say, we've stopped buying certain shapes because there's an oversupply, or there's a demand for circles and we don't have enough circles, so we'll be paying double or triple price for the circles. Or we've been inundated with rectangles, so we don't want more rectangles. Sometimes I'll be quite mean, and if I see that a group is filling a piece of paper with lots of rectangles or small triangles, which are the easiest shapes to manufacture, I'll just blow the whistle before they can sell them and say, nope, we've got too many of them. And then they either get frustrated and bin them and realize later on that they could have saved them to trade them later on in the game. Sometimes I can do an international auction of materials that could be useful for the other groups, like scissors, papers, compass. One of the things that works really well is to either introduce new technologies or new regulations. So I'll get some stickers. Last time I bought just loads of stickers of sea creatures from a pound shop, and I gave them to the poor country. And I just placed it on the table, and they didn't say anything. They were confused. What's this? What do we do with this? And eventually I said, well, due to environmental concerns, we're only buying shapes that are certified with a sticker of a little sea creature. So suddenly that poor country has a monopoly and everybody wants to trade with them. And after a while, I might change the dynamics of the game again and say, well, we found that actually those sea creatures are harmful to human lives, so we don't want any more of them. And sometimes it's students themselves who come up with different variations of the game. I've had some of them ask for loans. This photo was very recent of a group of students who came to me and the trader, and they gave us this little paper, and we didn't understand what it was. It's like, what is this? What is this? And because they had realized market conditions were constantly changing. They said, would you guarantee you buy all our shapes at a discounted price, no matter what the market conditions? And they actually made us sign. They were quite astute. They were like, but you need to sign it. And it's always student bringing these kind of things. At the end, we have a debriefing. And one of the first things we do is reveal the contents of the different packs. Although students become aware of the difference, they're not always aware of the extent of the differences of what they had in those packs. They reflect a little bit on what they did well and what they didn't do so well. It's not necessarily always the high income country that wins. Sometimes they think they have everything and they don't need to trade with others, and that makes them fall behind. They reflect on how they divided the labor, how much they adapted to the game, and so on. We reflect on how much the game itself is a representation of reality. Particularly, students normally talk about inequality, the feelings of powerlessness and frustration if they are the poor team. And although they haven't, I do the game normally in the first week of the globalization block. So they haven't had the theory yet, but instinctively they start talking about things like monopoly, supply and demand, changing conditions, comparative advantage, factor endowments, and so on. And then we do this in a seminar, and I follow up that seminar a couple of hours later with a lecture where I explain the trade theories, but then I'm able to link them to specific situations in the game. And that's what I find the game particularly useful, because it's not just about, yeah, let's play a game and it's fun. Students can really see how it links to the theory, and it makes it easier for them to understand those theories. So it's only recently that we've started to gather data. I'm going to hand over to Asad, tell you what we've found so far.
Okay. All right. Thanks for this, Ilva. As Ilva mentioned, that we have been running this game for more than 2 decades or something, but this is the first time that we have actually decided to capture data formally in terms of what students found about this. So we got our ethical clearance and all that usual stuff, which we all know about. And the aim of this study was to evaluate how effective this game-based learning model is in terms of teaching complex economic theories and models. So this particular cohort is a final year undergrad business management cohort. This is the background that they come from. We wanted to explore what kind of impact such kind of gamification and game-based learning is on student engagement. How engaged will they be in the game, and how will they apply all of this to the real world? And then finally, we wanted to get some ideas from them, feedback in terms of how we can improve this gamification for future cohorts. So we sent an open invitation to the entire cohort who had taken part in the game. We organized all the respondents who wanted to come over and take part in these focus groups. And then we had 2 focus groups of roughly 7 to 8 participants, and then we had separate sessions with them. They were recorded, transcribed, data was coded, categorized, and then we managed to extract 8 themes which came out of this, of the responses. So this is a full list of the themes. I'll just very quickly, due to the shortage of time, go through each one of these one by one. So the first one, and this seemed to be the most recurrent theme, is that they said that it's very much engaging and they seem to enjoy the game because of its interactive nature as compared to traditional seminars. And then they were saying that it's the first time they've seen everyone getting involved. It's quite fun. It was interactive. And the last quote is quite interesting, actually. They're talking to us, the tutors, and saying that it's better than listening to you and reading off a board. So I don't know what to say to this. And then this was the key bit which we were looking for about how important and how influential this kind of gamification is in order to help them understand key economic concepts. So as Ilfa mentioned that they had not got the input in terms of the lecture at this stage, but the focus group was actually conducted after they had had the lecture. So we were actually, the gaming process was covering things like competitive advantage and factor endowments and market fluctuations and everything. So this is just a sample of the different codes, but then we could see that they're using the exact terms, and they did actually seem to realize how they can relate all of these aspects to the game. So they talked about competitive advantage, where they could see that you specialize, different countries specialize in different kind of areas where they can have certain equipment to produce. And then they talk about how different countries trade with each other and how they try to get materials off from different countries through trading, of course. And then they mentioned about how everything that they learn in this game can be applied to the real world dynamics. Second point, second bullet. So different countries have different resources. Some countries can be very oil rich, but then they can extract the crude oil and then sell it off. They won't have the resources to refine the oil and use it. So they extract, they sell the crude oil and then buy back the refined oil. So this is what they're talking about here. So yes, real world application was at the heart of this game, and we could see this in the discussions that we had. Linking theory to practice, yes. So again, as I mentioned before, that at the heart of this sit all these regarding theories of comparative advantage and the factor endowments theory. So they could now understand the connections between the theoretical concepts and how it is practically applied in the game. Yes, so again, this seemed to be very clearly coming out in the discussions that we had. Now, broadly, all of this process, pedagogically, it is all about experiential learning, where they're learning through activity, through a hands-on activity. So they highlighted how effective this is through a hands-on activity rather than passive methods like listening to lectures. And then they talk about better understanding through having an example. If you're explaining it by not doing an activity, I think it's harder to understand. Yes, I think it's better doing it first, then studying the theory. So the last quotation is talking about what Ilva mentioned, that we do the game first, and then this is followed up by a normal face-to-face traditional lecture. So in the lecture, of course, references are made to the game, and this actually reinforces the entire learning process. Group dynamics. Now remember that this game is being played in the form of groups. Each group is a country, which could be either rich or middle income or low income. Of course, there is teamwork within the process of playing the game. There's a lot of competition. They have to come up with a lot of strategies. And then some of the groups can be very competitive, and they improvise different kind of ways in which they can come up with all kinds of ideas, just like the picture that we showed you, where they had the trader sign this agreement that no matter whatever happens in the market or whatever rules change, you'll buy our products at a discount. So yes, this is another thing which came out. Yes, and this links on to the previous one. They have to adapt very quickly and rapidly to the changing rules in the room, and they have to think in a very strategic manner, and this engages them with the different concepts as well. Yes, the last point, interesting, working with what you've got and how other countries have certain advantages. So over time, during the process of the game, they tend to realize that other countries have more raw materials, which is a paper which has been given to them. So this is what is coming out in the discussions as well. Yes, inequality, of course, 3 categories of countries. They do tend to realize that there is an uneven distribution of resources, which mirrors and which reflects the kind of disparities that we face in the real world. Resources were unevenly distributed across countries. Some are higher, some are lower, and you get to see which one is higher and which one is lower. So they could see the dynamics in the room about what kind of resources they've got. We asked them for any kind of improvement going forward, what kind of improvements we could do to the game, time, structure, resources, anything. I mean, they all seem to say that it's very good and that we should do it more often. And some of them said that every seminar activity should be like this. Now, this is not possible. And of course, they did realize this. They said that it shouldn't be, it can't be possible that every seminar can be like this, but as many as possible. So yes, overall, they did actually liked it a lot because of the interactive nature and something that they could really relate to. Okay, would you like to conclude the? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, just a few points to conclude. This is the first time we collect data, but anecdotally, for years and years, students have been saying how much, not just they enjoy the game, but how much it helps them understand the theory. And our focus group seems to have to match those comments. Students find the game interesting, they find it engaging, particularly helps them understand comparative advantage and the factor endowments theory. They want more of these games, and we're trying to find ways of doing this. Students did say we want more, doesn't mean we want them every single week. And I don't think it would work every single week. And I wouldn't want to force a game just for the sake of playing and making it fun. It needs to add something to their learning, like in this particular case. I've been trialing recently a health game, a virus game that a student told me about. It was not as successful as the trading games. I'm trying to find ways with some of our IT experts in the university to see how we can make it more relevant to the theory in the curriculum. Yeah, so thank you. And any questions?